It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job. My name is Mike.
And this is Brian. Usually you
yeah,
say...
I know. We're down here in the Billster studio. It's a little bit different. It's throwing us off a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Our guest today, we got Johnny Panjarjian, owner of Vinyl Pro Fence. Did I get the pronunciation right?
Yeah. Most people butcher the last name. So
We had about 15 minutes of talking through it beforehand.
Yeah,
so I think we're
perfect.
Good. Yeah.
What's up, Johnny?
What's
How you
going
doing,
on,
man?
guys?
Thanks for joining us down here.
Thank you.
Johnny's actually with the Billsters. He's part of that group. And if you've hopefully been keeping up with us, we're part of that group now as well. So we brought Johnny on while we're down here, kind of hanging out with the guys, and wanted to give him a little chance to get to know him a little bit better. How
right
you
on. Doing good, man.
So tell us a little bit about your business. This is kind of how we normally start them all. Give us a little background on you, how you got started in the industry, and how you got to where you are now.
Well, I was in corporate America in my mid-20s. Hated it. Want to own my own business. Didn't know what. My brother-in-law at the time, and actually still, is a manufacturer in plastics.
Okay.
And he said, hey, vinyl fence is really catching on. I know a couple of clients that I've set up that are doing good for themselves. Maybe you could do that. I don't have any background of construction whatsoever. If a light bulb goes out, my girl's changing it. No, my girlfriend does it. So
even better.
Up until
sounds like me, actually.
Yeah. So, but I'm more conceptual, and I looked at the business model, and it made sense, and I saw where the future of fences were gonna go, meaning maintenance free, one less thing to deal with. And I told my brother-in-law, hook me up with one of your top clients. And at that time, it was a company out of Orange County. They were doing close to $4 or $5 million in sales. I walked into the owner's office, and it was about 27, 28. And I was brutally honest. I said, look, I want to work for you because you're the best. I want to learn from you. And when I feel like I'm ready, I'm going to start my own business, but nowhere near your territory, so you don't have to worry about me being competition. I'm going to open up shop in San Diego. I'm originally from Los Angeles, by the way. And he respected that, and I said, look, I need to fast track my knowledge, so I'm not going to bullshit you. Like, this is my intentions. I'm telling you up front so that you could tell me the secrets of the trade or whatever I could gather around you, right? And that's kind of what I did. And by the way, at the time, I've never owned a business. Again, I've never worked with my hands in my life. It was the business that my brother-in-law said, hey, you want to try this? And I said, sure.
Yeah. What year was that?
I'm going to be 43 in March, so I'm horrible at math.
So 18 years ago, 17 years ago.
Something like that, yeah. So anyway, long story short, I packed my bags from L.A., and first 6 weeks, I stayed in different hotels and motels all over San Diego just to get the vibe to see, okay, where do I fit in living-wise, And I chose UTC and took the knowledge I had from that company, plugged it into San Diego, and it was crickets for the first 2 months. I was like, holy shit, what's going on?
Did I do the right thing?
Yeah, why aren't a million people calling me to set up their
fence? And then quickly, my first business lesson was whatever works for somebody or somewhere else doesn't naturally translate or transfer over.
Yeah. Did they, when they were up in, I'm assuming they're probably still in Orange County, when they were in Orange County, was business just rolling in and they were calling them, or?
Dude, these guys were rolling, man. So we're talking like 24,000 square foot space.
Jeez.
Cornering the market. The reputation was there. But then nobody knows Johnny in San Diego. Nobody knows Vinyl Pro Fence. So I had to build that trust with the community and the people. And so there was a lot of growing pains. I've had probably more lean years than I've had good years.
Right.
If I took my career of, let's call it 17 years, right? And then slowly just stayed in the race, and went from like me digging holes to getting one employee to two. Now we have 10, 3 trucks, partners with Home Depot in San Diego. Now we could bank on our reputation. We basically don't even advertise, you know. But it took a long journey, you know. And so that's kind of, I don't know if I answered your question.
No, that was it.
So how long did you work for the guy in Orange County? How long did it take you to kind of get that?
I think it was like 3 years.
Okay.
Oh, that's fast. That's longer than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's different because, like you said, you didn't have any background. So I mean, I think going in and being that honest helps, because as many contractors as we've talked to, a lot of them, most of them appreciate and can actually,
when you're up front.
Well, and not only that, but they love like passing on that knowledge to somebody who, most guys that we've talked to don't mind somebody out going off and starting their own thing. Obviously, don't want them stealing their customers, right? But to them, it's kind of like leaving a legacy, right? Like, so that guy's, you know, put his stamp on you basically, and now he can go and say, yeah, you know that guy down in San Diego that's killing it? Like, I taught him everything.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So it's kind of like passing on their legacy in a way, and people enjoy that, especially when you're upfront about it and right. You know, can tell them exactly what you want to do.
I think you're onto something there, Mike, and I believe in, like, in our personal lives and business in today's new world, when there's so many scammers and bullshit artists and all that. I'm 43, dude. The biggest thing I appreciate is just brutal honesty.
Yeah.
Right.
Like we talked earlier, I don't have the energy or the time or the patience for the fluff or the bullshit. Just call it how it is.
Yeah.
And I realized, dude, my clients are human beings like me. They're watching the same shows. They're on Facebook, Instagram, just like I am. We go to the same market. So whatever I'm feeling as a human being in today's world, my clients are feeling.
Yep.
So my point is,
being human with them. Yeah.
Being human with them and just being brutally honest. Don't overpromise. Call it how it is. And well,
especially
people are attracted to that
in the residential space too, right? I mean, you're dealing with homeowners who are being sold to day in and day out,
constantly.
Yeah. Whether it's construction or some sort of rehab plan or not, they're still being sold to day in and day out. So
yeah,
I mean, I have to imagine that there's a sector of you know, that residential space that appreciates the upfront, like, no, this is how it is. We're going to do it right. You're going to like it. Yeah. You're going to refer us to other people because that's how much you like it.
Yeah.
And this is my price. Deal with it, right? Like,
right.
This is how it's got to be, right? Like, you're not going to, like you said, BS with them and go back and forth, and they know you're going to be there from a reputation standpoint too. So is it strictly residential? Do you guys get into any sort of commercial or HOA work or anything?
Yeah, that's actually a big part of my business is commercial and HOA. Actually, I would say my forte is working with HOAs. In my world, it's a very different clientele base. There's Susie and Joe across the street that wants 100 feet of fence and a gate for their dog or their pool or whatever. It's a whole nother animal when you're dealing with 300 units or a track house, because just common sense will tell you, you got 27 homes lined up. That's 27 different cultures, backgrounds, personalities. Yeah. Not to mention dealing with a 10-person board that they think they're passing a bill through Congress. You know, so it's a different animal. So you have to know how to be going back to being human and getting dialed into, you know, when you're dealing with 10 people as a decision maker instead of Susie and Joe, the homeowner. Right. It's a different play, you know. Numbers game. There's 10 people in a room. All 10 have to. It's like a jury, right? They all have to vote and say yes. But you're always going to have those two knuckleheads, or just one that just always goes against the grain, no matter what, for no rhyme or reason. So it's just dialing it in and figuring out, okay, what's this guy's or this woman's deal? What's the holdup? And try to address it.
Was that your intention from the start? Was to do the commercial HOA stuff, or is that something that you just kind of fell into?
As you're going?
No, man. Anybody tells you otherwise is bullshitting you, dude. When you're young and you're starting a business, you're just trying to get business
wherever you can.
You're just hungry
to bait the fucking bills, dude. Yeah. So, and the HOAs, the bigger fish out there, let's call them that, they're not going to give the Johnnies of the world when he has no resume, no track record. It took a long time to get to the point where I could leverage and tell
get in that room
the second HOA, say, oh, I've done this 27 house project in Rancho Bernardo, go check it out, or this HOA or that HOA. So when I first did a podcast with Derek, one of the things I told him is, like, nobody has a magic sauce, whoever you talk to, business owner wise.
Yeah.
If you just do your principles and the things that you think is right, at some point you're going to get a lucky break, right?
Yep.
So my lucky break was I got a sizable contract for the Paula Casino in Temecula.
No shit.
And that was like over 50 homes, right? And we're talking miles of fencing. And first when I got it, I'm like, that's great, but I've never even done something like this. You
Now
know?
what?
So I figured it out, growing pains, you know, and then I leveraged that. So when the next HOA or the next commercial guy calls me, I was like, oh yeah, have you heard of Paula Casino? Well, go check it out. Those miles of fences you drove by when you went to the casino,
mine.
that's mine.
Yeah.
So you have to build up to the point where now I could say, this is my price, deal with it.
Right.
But when I'm 28 and I'm new,
Yeah.
that part of the conversation, I didn't have the tongue to say it
Right.
yet, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Maybe if we could go back to that, kind of going back to when you were 28 and new, you said the first, I think, 2 months it was crickets, right?
Yeah.
And you had mentioned that a lot of things that worked for, you know, somebody else doesn't always necessarily work here, especially in that space and time when you're a new company. What I think I might have cut you off back then in your story. What was that turning point or that first job or the story of that kind of got you over that first little hump?
I was spending a lot of crazy money that I didn't have. Like I think I reached like $10,000 a month in print. Now, remember, you have to go back in time.
Yeah, early 2000s.
17 years ago, where it's
No
not
such thing as social
digitalized.
media,
Before,
yeah.
like it was like, oh, buy one free magazine comes, or this magazine comes, or this pamphlet comes, and there's like a coupon, and so all that costs more money because it's paper, it's tangible, it's print, it's this and that. So I'm like, okay, well, those guys spent this kind of money in Orange County, but they're making a killing. So Johnny, the young guy who doesn't have 10,000, fuck it, let me get a loan because I'm gonna make 30,000.
Right.
You know, stupid.
That's the way it works, right?
Yeah.
Gotta-
If they're charging $45 a foot in Newport Beach, I think I could charge that in La Mesa.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'm like, holy shit, no, I can't.
Yeah.
And then the average, like my world is price per foot, right?
Right.
You have 100 feet. Somebody wants to know, how much do you guys charge price per foot? In Orange County, it was a different animal, meaning if they're on average at $45 a foot and they're hitting up people like, you know, Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, Laguna Beach, doesn't translate to National City, La Mesa, Chula Vista, the San Diego
yeah,
areas,
yeah.
minus
Completely
the
different
minus the La
demographics,
Joyas of the world, right? Or
Right,
the
right,
Rancho Santa Fe's.
Right.
But as a whole, I'm like, okay, so my price is way too high. And then the average price per foot here was significantly lower, meaning when I looked into my competition, I was like, holy shit, dude, these guys are like super fucking low compared to like the competitors out in Orange County. So if you really think about it, it's basic stuff. You know, it's not like I'm a mad scientist and I figure shit out. No, I just stayed in the game long enough, was able to weather my storms, get my reputation where I needed to be, and fast forward to the future, 3 crews, relationship with Home Depot as far as a partnership. We have the brick and mortar. We have the irony is now that cash flow is good, I spent
Far less on the marketing than you have
$70 a month in advertising. 70, and that's just so I could keep my Yelp page
You're talking
up.
about now? $70 a month now?
That's it. Because now I have the reputation.
Yeah.
Now they're like, I want Johnny from Vinyl Pro Fence.
Yeah.
Well, I have to imagine early on, part of being able to stay in the game long enough, like you said, like it was really just grinding, right? Staying in the game long enough so that you got those opportunities. But I would have to imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, that part of being able to do that was pivoting quickly, right? Like you probably realized pretty quickly, hey, this isn't going to work spending the $10,000 a month in marketing because I'm not going to get the price I need and I don't have the reputation to get the influence. So you know what I mean? Where you could have easily said, nope, this is the way it needs to be done, and kept doing that for 8 months, 12 months, a year, and now you're out of money and out of business. But I would have to imagine that at some point you were pivoting quickly and figuring out new ways.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny, the smaller ship you have, the easier it is to pivot, right?
Yeah.
Meaning if you're in a canoe and there's a storm coming your way, you can move out of that ripple or that wave. If you're on a fucking yacht, you need to see that storm a quarter mile away in order to fucking move the ship.
Right.
So the advantages of being small is when you're in the 10 by 10 storage, right? And you have one employee, you could pivot a lot quicker, right? So fast forward to my world today, it's not a yacht, but I'm out of the rowing boat into like, I don't know, let's call it a 20-foot boat. You know what I mean? With a motor in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely pivoting's a huge part in life too, right? We pivot in our personal lives. Shit happens and you're like, fuck, how are we going to deal with this? We got to do something different.
So you said you're only spending $70 a month for your Yelp page, but I mean, being with these guys and seeing what I've seen, I have to imagine you're using social media and some other things too, right? I mean, obviously not from a cost standpoint, but
recently, really, like before, like we always had the social media, the Facebook and the Instagram, but it was just like whenever I remember, I'd post something. It wasn't like it wasn't on my radar.
No, nothing deliberate about it.
Nothing deliberate.
Right?
Yeah. Then when I connected with Derek and the Buildsters, I'm like, and I'm good at delegating. I know what I'm good at, and I'm truthful with myself, and I know what I suck at.
Right.
It's like I don't have the patience, nor do I care. I'm not the guy that posts every meal he has. Look at this great fucking cheeseburger I had. I'm not that guy, right? I'm not. So I said, why don't I give this part of my business to you guys, have fun with it, and run with it, right?
Yep.
Or just like my installers, like I always joke, it's like it's comical that I have a contractor's license because I'm not a handyman. I've never worked in construction. Like if you tell me to put a fence from this wall to the next, it'd be a fucking sting. But I know how to find good talent. I'm good in growing a business. I'm good at pivoting.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm good at delegating.
Well, there's something to be said for that
You're
too,
a good
right?
business owner, essentially.
Yeah, and there's very few that are good at both, right? That are good at running a business and being a contractor. And we've definitely seen a lineation or a clear delineation between the two. There's the people that have the business background and can run a business and happen to get into construction or contracting. And then there's the contractors that have been doing it since they were 5 and 7 and 8 years old with their dad or mom or whatever.
Exactly.
And come up and try and start their own business. And either way can be successful, but there are growing pains on both sides. But to your point, there's very few people that are good at both or great at both, right? Usually you have one background or the other and you figure out the other. But on that talent aspect, growing the business and going from 0 or 1 employees to now 10, where do you find yourself most successful in finding those employees and the talented guys to be able to do that kind of work?
That's the one thing I haven't figured out yet. In fact,
well, you're not alone there. I'll promise.
Yeah,
This is episode 110, and
No.
I don't think anybody's done it perfectly.
I agree. I think there is a big void, no matter if you're the turf guy, the landscaper guy, the vinyl fence guy.
Yeah.
The one thing our industry doesn't have is some kind of portal or a destination on the web. It's word of mouth, right?
Yep.
Hey, I know such and such. He's a good worker. There isn't anywhere, or like the old school, put a sign on the truck, we're hiring. I think that's lacking, and some smart guy's going to come up with a platform for guys like me, because right now, like knock on wood, I'm growing my business. I need my 4th, 5th crew, but I'm very picky on who I bring in as part of my team.
I mean, they're
reputation.
representing you.
Yeah.
And,
They're extension of
and
myself.
There's an aspect of liability too, right? I mean,
Exactly.
Which is kind of like
financially,
going back to that boat, you
Yeah.
know, ideology, that idea of like you can't just pivot on a dime, because now you're having to figure out who the right people are for the job or for the company, right? And so it's a slower hire to make sure that reputation continues.
My biggest problem right now is I have 3 full crews going. I could easily jump that to 5. But what's holding me is finding the right guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm also big on the chemistry and the energy in my business. You know, I've had bosses before where it's a toxic environment. So you could be the greatest craftsman, but if you walk into my business like your shit don't stink, you're out.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I need that perfect combination of a good-hearted, good human being, but also just like stays in their lane and just does the work that they're asked to do.
Right.
So are you at the capacity now or the ability now where, because you're kind of in that limbo, right? Like the smaller guy, if you only have 1 employee and not a lot of time, you probably don't have time to train somebody. So you're looking for somebody with experience. Are you at the point now where, and conversely on the flip side, we talked to a lot of contractors who have, 50, 80, 100 employees where they're like, no, give me the right person and we'll train them the right way. So where are you at in that on that sliding scale? Are you looking for the experience and somebody that fits? Or are you looking for just somebody that fits and you can teach them how to do the work? Or
I've had recently. I just had a shift in my head starting this year, meaning I would just take anybody that was willing to work hard.
right?
And although they were good human beings and they show that they work hard, but sometimes it just doesn't click.
Right.
Like their background is they worked in a kitchen before in a restaurant. Great guy, hard worker, but it wasn't translating because it's just like such a different world.
You got a lot of hand holding, I bet.
Yeah. So right now I'm, as long as it's gonna take, it's gonna take. Meaning I'm gonna be patient because I need guys that have been working in some element of construction at this point. I'm done with bringing some guy who had a bank job or worked at a restaurant or used to sell cars. Even though they're great guys and they work hard, but production-wise,
Yep.
Well, and I feel like it's probably a smart move because you're not desperate like you were at the beginning, right? So you've had a little bit of time to create that business and that reputation to continue. And so it kind of affords you some time and the ability to be a little bit more, deliberate and then, in terms of who you're going to bring on. So when you do bring on that fourth and fifth crew, that you actually grow to that it's very intentional, essentially, right?
Right.
Yeah, I think it's wise, smart.
Like business to me, like you guys have your own business. You guys are in business.
Yep.
The analogy I came up with, it's like we have a plane, right? You guys fly your own plane. I fly my own plane. And you're constantly like turning dials, right? Let's turn this up. Let's turn this down. And you will get turbulence, but the point of the flight is to make it as smooth as possible, whatever you could control,
Right.
minus the outside elements that are coming towards your business, right? So what I mean by the dial is going back to being brutally honest with clients. Right now I'm 3 crews, I'm 45 days out. And I'll tell the client, look, I'm not one to overpromise. Most contractors will try to get your contract, put the financial cuffs, and say, oh, we'll be there in 2 weeks. When they show up in 4.
Yeah.
They'll tell you it'll take 3 weeks to finish the job. They're there 6 weeks. I'm the opposite, and I tell you that from day one. I said I'm not an over promiser. In fact, on purpose, I'm going to paint you the worst case scenario on purpose.
Yeah.
Because
and then
there's
overperform.
variables,
Yeah.
especially in today's world, that I can't control. So, and I'll tell them, on paper, on your contract, I'm writing 45 days out. Off paper, wink, wink, we're closer to 30.
Right.
If I could get to 30, you're happy,
Yep.
right? Versus
But you're
the
signing
opposite.
a contract knowing it could be 45.
Yeah, and the lead time in my world is, okay, I have this pipeline of jobs to do. I only have 10 guys and 3 trucks. Being in the business long enough, you could gauge, okay, this job should take a week. This one should take 4 days. You kind of know that visual calendar in your head.
Yep.
So going back to my dials, so okay, let's crank it up to 45 days to the people until we get the 4th crew. The 4th crew comes, let's dial it down to 30 days.
Right. No,
Well-
that's smart. Like
Well,
you
it's
said,
like,
being-
it's that low-hanging fruit. I think I would say not just in contracting, I'd say probably just as a human element overall. If you do what you say you're going to do, especially in today's world where people are,
so sensationalized.
yeah,
and
there's
everything
just too
else,
much
yeah.
going on. They're getting hit from every side, whether it's on their phone or at work or at home or whatever. If you just do what you say you're going to do,
That's it.
you like in your case, right? You're under promising and over delivering, kind of that Ritz-Carlton model. People, that's where the reputation comes in. I think that people get excited about that, and they're like, "Hey, man, I went with this guy Johnny from Vinyl Pro Fence, and he said he was going to come out in 45 days. He came out in 35, right? It wasn't 30, but it was 35. But they don't know that. You might have wink, but like they're happy. And you got the job done. You did it well, and then you've got more business as a result. As opposed to if you said, "I'll be out there in 3 weeks," they think, "Great, 3 weeks." And I've had this happen to me actually. We had a flooring contractor at our house forever ago, and he said, "Yeah, the job will take me about 2 weeks. They were going to do the downstairs, the stairs, and the upstairs hallway." And I said, "Great." He demoed the first 3 days, right, downstairs and upstairs, and then disappeared. I didn't see him. I never saw him again. In fact, I called him, emailed him, did whatever. And this is probably 16, 17 years ago. And he sent some kid to finish the job who showed up just randomly one day and got the job done. Enough, right? There were no dampeners upstairs. When I walk at Creek, my kids would wake up. It was terrible. But that being said, if you would have told me it's going to take me 4 weeks to get the job done, and by the way, and I found this out later. By the way, my daughter is like in a junior Olympic thing out in Arizona, so I'll be gone next week. I would have been like, great, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But
Right.
you just tell me what you're going to do.
Because you're mentally prepared for it.
Right. Yeah.
It's going to take me this and this because of this. Like going back to being human. Yeah, I have a daughter. She's got this going. You'd be like, yeah, I get it. I'm a father too.
Right.
Shit happens in life. It's hard to juggle.
Yeah.
Yep.
Going back to like bare bone honesty.
Yep.
You know, I'll give you guys a live example that happened to me recently. Right. You also have to own up to your mistakes. We're not perfect, right? We fuck up, and I'm going to give you a big fuck up story.
I love it.
Last month, beginning of December, we've been cracking all year. I wanted to go to Big Bear, get a house, and just chill with my dogs and my girl, invite another couple from LA that we're cool with, and just get off the grid, right?
Yeah.
Told my guys, I'm gone for 3 nights, 4 days. Call me if the house is on fire, but that's about it. Like, you guys are professionals. I don't micromanage, handle it, right? I had 3 crews going at different jobs. It was like, I felt like I was in a Seinfeld episode. Every morning that I woke up in Big Bear, I was on the phone for 2 to 3 hours putting out fires, right? One client in particular, and I won't bore you with the details. I'll just fast forward to the cherry on the pie. I'll just say this. I was there 3 nights, 4 days in Big Bear, okay? The first 3 days, every day on this woman's job, there was a problem. And problems that my guys normally don't do, right?
Right.
So here I am massaging the
ordinary,
situation, giving a free retaining wall to calm her nerves, and I could go back to chilling in Big Bear, just trying to make it right.
Right.
As I'm driving back from vacation, dogs are in the truck, luggage in the back of the truck. I get a call from my foreman saying, we have another big problem. I go, which job site? Such and such. I'm like, what could now happen, right?
Was this the same
Same
job
one?
site with the
Same
lady?
job site, right? So check this out. They demoed 80 feet of the wrong side. I said, something like they've never done.
Right.
Yeah.
I go, guys,
It's that Murphy's Law, right?
it's so
Like,
simple. I even put an arrow on the sheet that says, this wooden fence stays, don't remove, in fuchsia colored pen. No joke. Fuchsia. Like fucked up pink.
Right.
On purpose. Dude. And let's remind everybody that this is a lady that I've already had problems the whole week. So I look like a numbnut.
Yeah.
My guys look like fucking clowns.
Yeah.
So I drop my girl and the dogs at the house. I'm still in Big Bear attire.
Yeah.
Roll
Snow
up to the
jacket and
house,
everything.
okay? And I'm like, how the fuck am I going to get out of this, right? Going back to me being brutally honest, I called the lady, right? I said, follow me to my truck. I opened my truck. She knew I was in Big Bear because I said, look, I'm on vacation. I'm trying to like help you out while I'm on vacation. I go, you see that? And it's like all my Big Bear gear, right? I go, I literally dropped off my family and I'm here at your job site to show you good faith.
Yeah.
And I said, look, let's cut to the chase. My guy's fucked up. I'm going to own that. I'm the owner. It's 80 feet that's not there, right? So I only have 2 options for you. Either I put up your fucked up wooden fence back up or I give you 80 feet for free.
Yeah.
Of course, she jumped on
Right.
80
Free.
feet for
Yeah.
free.
Yeah.
Well, that was like a $3,000 hit.
Yeah.
Before that, just for numbers' sake, I had given her an $800 retaining wall for free for another fuck up.
Yeah.
So altogether, call it $4,000, right? So long story short, whatever, we get through that, and I see that I got a 5-star review on Yelp, and it's her. And she's like, I've been a homeowner for 30 years. Whenever contractors fuck up, they don't own up to it.
Yep.
This guy literally told me, I fucked up. I'm going to make it right. Like if I heard this story and like where I was in the beginning with her, dealing with her shit in Big Bear, to the conclusion of the story, I would never guess that I would get a 5-star review.
Yeah.
But that one review, by the way,
Yeah.
I got like probably 85 5-star reviews. I'm not bragging. I'm just trying to paint you a picture.
Yeah.
Out of that 85 muffled shit,
Well, that's your number one.
That's
Yeah.
going to speak louder
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
all the other 84s that say how great I am.
Yeah. Well, I feel like those are the ones that people skip over.
And she called me,
Yeah.
and we ended up having a 45-minute conversation over the phone, just human to human. And she was just like, you know what? It was the way you approached it. You didn't bullshit your way out of it, because I've had other contractors fuck up, and what gets me real boiled up is when they're trying to like make excuses for their fuck up. You were like, yeah, we fucked up.
Yeah. I'm gonna fix it.
Let's
Well, and you think
know,
about like you said it cost you $4,000, but how much? And it's you can't quantify it, but how much would it have cost you in lost business or anything if she would have given you the 1-star review?
Yeah.
because you
That's
just
there.
tried to,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
You got to
So
play
it's-
chess.
Yeah, it cost you $4,000, but I have to imagine anybody listening or anybody who knows anything about any kind of business knows that that's basically just a $4,000 marketing expense that's gonna get you more business and keep you from losing business in the future.
Exactly.
Which I mean, that's
Well, and going back to my story, I didn't find out about the human side in terms of his daughter being at her.
until after you were already
and it
pissed
wasn't
off.
from him. It was from a guy, and the guy who had referred him to me was the one that told me that. So I didn't have him come to me and say, "Hey, I messed up, and here's why, and here's what I'm going to do to fix it." It was just some random 20-year-old kid.
Yep.
Wow.
You know. So I think that and going back to that Yelp review. So when I'm going through Yelp reviews, I skip over the 4-paragraph 5-star reviews because in my mind I think it's probably somebody that either works there, it's a marketing company, or so. But I either read the 1 or 2 lines or the ones like you said that said, "Hey, I either they messed up, but they were honest, and this is how they fixed it."
Yeah.
And then you go, because in my mind I go, okay, they're human, they messed up, they fixed it, they did it right.
Right.
And they got it done.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So going back to your thing, if you say what you're gonna do, if you do what you're gonna say you do, or if you mess up and then you fix it
Fucking own it.
and you own it,
Yeah.
that's huge.
Yeah.
Because guess what? No one's perfect.
Yep, we're
you guys
all
fuck
human.
up.
Yep, all the time.
And everybody.
That's my wife.
All my clients, they have businesses or they work for somebody. We're human.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, no one's perfect.
Yeah.
So just own it.
Yeah.
Simple.
So going back to kind of getting to where you are now and getting into that mindset, what are some of the challenges you faced as in that process, the hurdles you had to get over kind of on a day-to-day basis that kind of challenged you in running the business?
Are we talking in the middle of my journey or in the present?
Whatever. Probably in the
Maybe
present.
more present.
Yeah.
The present, we kind of touched up on it. Right now, knock on wood, we have
hiring.
more business than we could handle. Ironically, 2020 was one of my busiest years in 17 years. Finding good help, guys I could trust, that could have my back like I have theirs. That's my biggest challenge. And also anticipating the future trends. When I started, it wasn't digitalized. Like I said, it was like coupon books and mailers and stuff like that. But I quickly realized like how I am. I go to my mailbox, right? You get a fucking stack of shit. And
Throw it away.
You don't even
throw
look
away,
at it.
throw
Yeah,
away.
throw away, throw away. Okay, that's a bill. Keep it. Oh shit, something from the IRS. Okay,
I throw those away too.
Yeah. So the biggest challenge right now is how do I grow it and how do I sustain it? We're living in very unprecedented times. I think in like 50, 100 years, they'll be writing books and stuff about where we're living,
Case
like
studies,
where we are, case studies. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the future. And I'm always worried. Like I'm still that 28-year-old hungry kid, right? Even though like we're 45 days out, business is good, but deep down, and it's a healthy fear, where like I have a hustler's mentality, right? Like I'm still operating mentally as I'm back in the 10 by 10 storage, because I know in life and in business, no matter what realm of business you are in, you're hot today, you're cold tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, that's where almost that 45-day lead time is almost a blessing, right? Because if shit starts hitting the fan, you've got work for at least another month and a half to 2 months,
Yeah.
right? I mean, whereas if you had 5 or 6 crews and you were able to bang stuff out and you're only 2 weeks out, when shit hits the fan and all of a sudden you're done with work and you got nothing else, it's
The funny part about that is the whole pivoting. Yes, if everything stopped today, we're good for 45 days. But
Right.
when you have that bigger boat, it makes it harder to pivot, meaning your expenses
yeah,
is through the roof.
yep,
If I go back 10 years and somebody told a 30-year-old Johnny, you're going to be your operating cost is $30,000 a month, right?
He said,
I'd be
"I'm
like,
out."
oh, dude,
I'm out.
I'd be like, I'm a baller. That means if my operating cost is $30,000, that means if I'm generating $30,000 a month, I break even. That's scary. So it's harder to pivot because it's a bigger animal to keep feeding the furnace, right? When you have a little choo-choo train, it's it's a couple coals. I don't know if that's a good analogy,
Sounds good to me. Sounds like it works.
Just run with it, Mike.
We'll just put a little choo-choo train down on the
Yeah.
bottom. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the future look like for you
I was
guys?
gonna say, how's
obviously-
2021 looking?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the goal is to get more people or more guys on board and kind of grow. But I mean, is it an aggressive growth, or I mean, do you have plans of growth in the future?
So what I'm really excited about, right in the middle of the pandemic, middle of April, we partnered up with Home Depot, right? And they awarded us 3 stores. We had a talk with them before the new year hit, and they indirectly told me they're going to roll out another 5. And they also indirectly told me, like, keep doing what you're doing, and eventually we want you to corner the market of San Diego. What does that mean? That means whoever walks into a Home Depot in all of San Diego and says, hey, I want a fence, they're going to say, great, call Johnny at Vinyl Pro Fence. Right. So that's a big part of my growth. Before, when I got 1 HOA a year, I'd be like, oh, hell yeah. Know, we're starting the year with 6.
Jeez.
Yeah. Plus the residential, plus the Home Depot stuff. So my biggest stress right now is, and it's new territory for me as well, right? Navigating
geographically, yeah.
No, more
like
mentally like how to control something like that. Like there's also fear in growing, right? And a lot of people think, oh, if I have 6 crews, I make more money. That's not necessarily the case. Sometimes
only if you manage it correctly.
Exactly.
Yep.
So it's finding that perfect dial in your airplane. Do you stay at 3, even though you could get to 6, or do you just go to 4 as far as crews? You know, so it's nobody has.
Are you a one-man show? Are you running it all by yourself?
Yeah, I learned really quick. In my early years, I partnered up, and partnerships are like marriages, It's hard. So, and part of me not being in corporate is I didn't want somebody telling me what to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm by myself.
Is part of that growth plan to bring in other people to help you kind of run the operations part?
Yeah.
To kind of delegate some of that?
The biggest thing that happened to me was, I think there's a difference when you work for your business versus when somebody works on their business. Yeah. So for a long time, I was working for my business. What does that mean? That means I've dug the holes, estimating, figuring out marketing, doing all that shit because I had to, because I didn't have the money to hire people, right? But I'm glad I did that because I know enough knowledge in each sector of my business. So when I do bring in the right people, I know if they're doing their job right. I know if they're a good fit. I know enough about what everybody needs to do. So now I'm in a position where I let go some of that control. I'm still working hard on my business, but again, the key word is I'm working on the business, not for the business.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, kind of one thing, one more question I wanted to ask you before we try and wrap this up, but that Home Depot partnership that you were...
We have 2 more questions, but yeah.
Another one, okay. The Home Depot partnership, is that something that you went after, or was that like through the manufacturer that you got connected with them? How did you, I mean, that's obviously not something that anybody can do or can be awarded. So what were the logistics on that?
Actually, it's a pretty cool story. To answer your question directly, I did not go after Home Depot. They weren't on my radar. Nobody said, hey, let me introduce you to Home Depot. I got a random email, and I get bombarded by going back to where we started the segment. You get sold every fucking minute of this world, right? Yep. I got an email, and I'm like, oh, it's probably some bullshit person.
Probably some insurance.
Copy and pasting a Home Depot logo representing Home Depot or some bullshit, right? So I kind of blew it off. And then I got a second email, and I'm like, you know what, fuck it. Let me just respond. And sure enough, it's like Atlanta. And I noticed Atlanta, and I know Home Depot's
in Atlanta,
the headquarters. So next thing I know, they're flying from Atlanta to meet me at my shop. I'm like, oh, shit, okay. And long story short, they said, look, we've been doing our research. We've been following you for a while. You're doing something right. Your ideology fits ours. I think we'll be a good fit. We want to strengthen our Home Depot, our presence in the San Diego County.
Wow.
So after that, they said, you're going to have to do a presentation. So, a month
Back
later,
into the corporate world.
go into a corporate, big table, shit you see on TV. And what sold me to them was me being myself, being brutally honest, going back to like who I am as just a human being, right? Just calling it out it is and saying, and of course having the resume helps and all that and the reputation.
Well, but that sounds like a lot of that stuff preceded you, right? Like it sounds like they figured all that out before they even called you.
They did their research. Right, they knew what I was doing. So you didn't even
have to do. I would imagine there wasn't a lot of selling yourself and selling your reputation because they'd already seen a lot of that. It was more,
I didn't even know how to put up a PowerPoint. They're like, you have to do a PowerPoint. I was like, a power what?
A what? Yeah.
So literally,
you got an IT
dude,
guy that can help me do that?
I go on the internet. I hired some
What
dude
is
for like
PowerPoint?
$45. I go, I'm going to tell you my ideas. Put it in this PowerPoint,
This newfangled PowerPoint.
Yeah, I'm fucking horrible with technology.
That's awesome.
My grandpa used to say, and I used to think when I was young that that he had cornered the market on the saying, but I've heard it since elsewhere. But there's nobody that's lucky. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity, right?
I love it.
So, and kind of going back to that story, and I think probably the coolest thing about it is they probably get bombarded with other fencing companies that are trying, like, hey, look at me.
Yeah.
So I mean, they're doing it in a way that you had no idea. So, but the point is that you were already prepared, right? You were already doing your work. You were doing what you needed to do to make sure that you did it right. You got it done, right? And then on the backside of that, and the flip side, the opportunity comes, and now you're quote unquote lucky because they did their homework on you.
You need luck, and that's what I said from the beginning. If you just stay in your lane and follow your own philosophy, whatever it is, and stay true to yourself, at some point you're gonna get that lucky break. Whether it's the Paula Casino 15 years ago or into the future Home Depot.
Right.
Full circle, right?
So okay, going back. When I first met you an hour and a half ago, before we even started recording, you had mentioned, I don't know if you already said it, but you mentioned that you had some crazy story that you were thinking about on your drive over. Do you feel comfortable sharing that?
Yeah. So,
wait, it wasn't the Big Bear trip? That wasn't.
No.
In my mind, I was like, maybe that's it. But he said Jerry Springer, so I was like, wait, that wasn't quite Jerry Springer.
No, I'm keeping the cherry on the pie for last, guys.
Let's do it.
So I did a little research as far as like, who you guys are, what you guys normally talk about. So I thought, well, I've been doing this long enough, and maybe once a week I have a crazy story, but one that you just cannot even script it into a fucked up comedy on HBO. So I think it was about 10 years ago. I get a call from this older lady, in early 80s, let's call it.
Wow.
Right? 80-year-old something, and sweetheart of a lady. She's like, okay, I want to do my fence, and I share it with a neighbor. Most of my clients share the fence now. Yeah. Now, there's two relationships in the world that you don't pick, right? It's family and your neighbors, right? Those are the only two in the world of human beings. Those are the relationships you don't pick. Your family and your neighbor. So throughout the years, I'd always hear, I don't talk to this neighbor, or this one's an asshole, this one's a bitch, or whatever, right? Let's skip all that. Let's just get to the one that I'm going to share. So this lady tells me, my next door neighbor, she doesn't want to pay $1 for it, this and that, so I want you to keep her fence up and just put my new fence
on the inside?
On the inside, right? Which in my world I've heard it before. I'm like, okay, I go, it's in your best interest, even though you're paying for it, to take that wooden dilapidated fence out because you're exposing your house to termites anyway. No, out of spite, you're going to keep her piece of shit fence, and I'm going to put my brand new vinyl fence inches away from the fucked up fence, let's call it, right?
Wait, so are they running like parallel within inches of each other?
Within inches.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, lady, cool,
Losing property
right?
too. You're losing property line here.
Well, let's call her Bertha, right? Sure, Bertha. So we go to the job site, and then the next door neighbor comes out. Now and by the way, these two neighbors haven't talked since probably 1972. So it's like a big, long feud, right? And I didn't even know what the feud was about. I don't want to get that involved. So let's call the other neighbor Maggie. So Maggie shows up, and she's in her early 80s, right? Oh, what's going on?
It's like grumpier old men.
Oh, dude, what is Bertha doing? I'm like, she hired me to do a fence. Are you touching my fence? No, I'm not touching your fence. What color is she doing? I'm like, it's
Shouldn't
white.
matter.
It shouldn't matter. What the fuck do you care? But I'm being nice. She's an 80-year-old, whatever. So anyway, she's like, well, can you come inside my house? I want to talk to you about my fence. I'm like, okay, well, we could talk outside. And she's like, no, I don't want Bertha to hear. I'm like, okay, like weird. All right, I'm just rolling with it.
Yeah.
So I tell my guys, do your thing. I'm going to go talk to the neighbor, see what's up. I'm in this lady's house, and she starts talking about, hey, maybe I'll do my gate, my fence, or whatever, Next thing I know, my phone's blowing up, and it's my foreman. You need to come outside right now. I'm like, why? I open the door, and there's 3 police cars. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? The cop comes up. Who's the contractor on site? I am. Are you Johnny? I'm like, yeah. So they pull me aside, and they're like, are you being held against your will? I said, I'm like, excuse me? She's like, well, we got a 911 call saying that you're being held hostage in this lady's house. I turned around, and I'm looking at Maggie. I go, do you think she's keeping me hostage? I mean, it's like an old lady. She baked me cookies, I'm like, no. And then, long story short, I said, no, it's just these 2 older ladies that haven't talked since 1972, and they just like throw daggers at each other, and I'm just stuck in the middle. I'm just the fence guy, dude. I just want to put up a fence and fucking leave. And then, I mean, the cops and I had like we were just rolling laughter because she called 3 times, 911. Imagine that. Man. Are you being held hostage against your will? Did you get roughed up? I was like, well, the cookies weren't that good, but other than that, fuck, I think I chipped a fucking tooth. Yeah, so that was the one that I always remember because 3 cop cars, like the only thing missing was the fucking SWAT team and a sniper on the roof.
Right. So did you put up the fence inside the other fence?
Dude, yeah, we did that. And then when it came to
so you did both fences?
No, I didn't put I didn't do Maggie's. No, I did Bertha's, and then I'm like, fuck this lady's like cuckoo, right? So I said, I just gave like an extremely ridiculous price, and I said, I'm out 6 months. Just to like get away. Sometimes
don't want to come back.
Yeah, that's another thing you learn in this business. You know who you want to pair up with as far as who you want as a client, and where like you could build them the fucking Taj Mahal and they're fucking bitch.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, I'm out. Yeah.
That was awesome. That was a good one. That's gotta be top 3 stories at least for sure. Awesome. Well, thanks, Johnny. We appreciate your time. We want to give you a chance to kind of plug your business. Where the people can find you, phone numbers, emails, websites, whatever you got.
Yeah, so do what everybody else does. If you need a fence, you could either type in Vinyl Pro Fence in your search engine. Obviously, I got my own website, www.vinylprofence.com. You could catch us on Instagram, Facebook. We have brick and mortar right off Miramar Road. Call me. I'm the owner. My cell phone, 619.
You're brave.
787-5052.
Our hundreds of listeners are going to call you now.
And if I don't pick up, leave a message. Do not call me 5 times. I am not a surgeon. I'm a fence guy.
We were literally talking about this before we did the show.
Yeah. If I don't pick up, leave me a message or text me.
Yeah.
Do what you do when you call your mother. That's it.
And he will call you back.
I will. Johnny
Awesome.
on the spot.
Thanks for the time, man. We appreciate it.
Right on,
Keep in
man.
touch.
Thank you, guys. It was
Stay
cool.
safe out
Thanks,
there.
Johnny.
Man. Thank
Have
you.
a good one.
Bye now.
Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.